Well, welcome everybody tonight. I'd like to call the meeting to order and take a look. We have an agenda in front of us. I'd be looking for approval of the agenda. Is there a second? Second. All right, got Angie or Neil. That's good. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Pose the same sign. Okay, motion passes, and still haven't gotten Jill yet, right? So we have, Jill's going to be joining us via Skype tonight. There might have been some problems, but we'll watch for her to be part of the meeting, but we still have a quorum, so we will move forward. Number 3, no action items, and so number 4, Kathy Niebuhr, we got a COVID-19 update.
So, good evening. This slide that we started with the last meeting just did some updates for you and added a couple pieces here. Certainly the last week, you'll see we had 12 positive cases, 16 students and staff in quarantine, and I added a percentage there. So that's a percentage of our total on-site students. So 2,588 students on site. But I didn't add staff in there because we have very few staff in quarantine, so the grand majority of our people in quarantine are students. 2 positive as of late today. So we haven't done any contact tracing yet that I'm aware of. I wasn't able to check into that with our nurses. It came right at the end of the day. So we're at 299 cases for the year, 65 for fourth quarter. Just kind of an update of things that are happening this week. We are offering saliva tests on site at the high school. We've ordered 150 for students who are interested. I heard from the state person today that they have been shipped, and so we're hoping they're here today or tomorrow or Wednesday. We'll have them available. It's all voluntary for students if they are interested. The significance of Thursday is that it's 5 days after the weekend events, and if somebody happened to test positive and get those results, it would be 10 days, say, from Thursday, from the testing date. They still would be able to participate in graduation, and if they were a student that was identified as a close contact, say of Thursday or before, we would be very close to the 14 days of quarantine and again still be able to participate in graduation. So, anything else? We'll go to the next slide. Just again, the saliva testing, it's free to any student. We've ordered 150. They'll be available at the high school. Armory continues to test on Monday and Tuesday, noon to 6 p.m., and are taking walk-ins, so I've directed a couple of individuals there. While at work here, for employees who carry the health insurance can get testing. Mayo has been very generous with opening up their vaccinations and sending us information. I can send employees to either Mayo or to Freeborn County Public Health. And it's my understanding Freeborn County Public Health is doing a clinic at the Armory this week. Hy-Vee is also offering vaccinations. Walgreens is offering vaccinations and testing. So we have lots of opportunities in the community for families and individuals. Anything else? Dennis.
How has the students getting vaccinated thing going? Have we heard much on that, or did we have the Thursday for the students and did we get a full house there?
We heard close too, yes. So about 40. That's how many slots we had. So.
Is it still 16 and over?
Correct, for the Pfizer, which is they have to go to Mayo for that in town because of the refrigeration requirement.
Any other questions? Jill, did you have any questions? Okay, thank you. All right, Kathy, thanks. Transportation update, 4.2, Dr. Funk.
So before I get started with this, I just want to take a quick moment to congratulate and identify our recommended new high school principal next year, Chris Dibble. Why don't you stand up? So Chris is going to make the leap from Southwest Middle School to Albertley High School. We had 3 strong internal candidates apply for the position, and Chris is the one that we picked moving forward here. So Chris has done a lot of great things at Southwest, and he's got big shoes to fill with Mark at the high school, but they'll be starting the transition here later this month. So congrats to Chris. So transportation. We are in the middle of finishing up negotiations with our transportation provider, Albertley School Bus. And so as we're looking ahead to fall, we had a cabinet meeting last week where for the first time we started to look at discussing possible options for next fall. So I'm going to kind of run you through 3 or 4 different scenarios here that we could take a look at, and then recommend a survey to the community on some of the options we're looking at here. So go ahead to the next slide. So here are our instruction times from last year to this year. As you can see, the elementary, typically the kids are in the room about 8:10. Instruction starts at 8:20 and goes till 2:50. Southwest and the high school getting out at 2:50 to 3:05, somewhere in there last year. This year, the elementary, 8 o'clock is the start time, first bell's at 7:50, and then you can see the later end times for Southwest and the high school. And we really, there was some consternation when we went to the 2-tier system for the late afternoons with the high school when we did it. We have not heard too much feedback since then. And again, we did it primarily for COVID safety reasons here. So there are some other factors that people take a look at when looking at a 2-tier system. So go ahead, Ashley, to the next slide. And I'm not going to bore you all with a bunch of data here tonight, but click on that start times link. So this is a link to the CDC, and basically it talks about starting school later can help adolescents get enough sleep and improve their health. And there are, if you were to Google school start times or adolescents, you will find article after article on, that later is basically better for a school start time. So go ahead and go back, Ashley. We'll send you all the link to this so you can look at it yourself. Last year, Mankato decided that they were going to move to the 2-tier system, and they created a video. And this is about a minute and 45-second video. I'll just show you what some of their rationale was. This is Tom Sager, their Director of Finance.
Mankato Area Public Schools 2-tiered busing provides enhanced transportation service for our students. Research demonstrates that tiered busing offers many advantages. For example, a later start time aligns with older students' natural sleep cycles. Students spend less time on buses. Fewer bus transfers for students. Increased breakfast time at school. Age-similar bus companions. Less crowded buses. Allows families greater opportunity for bus contracting. Increased options for routing and flexibility. Positions the district for the future. Tiered busing is efficient and doesn't increase cost. This model is the best fit for the Mankato Area Public Schools. Here's how tiered busing works. Elementary students are picked up and dropped off first. They start and dismiss early each school day. Middle and high school students will be transported on a second route. They start and end their school days later. As always, safety is a top priority. Safety is a shared responsibility of students, parents, school staff, bus contractors, bus drivers, and the community at large. Learn more about transportation services online at For more information, contact school staff at 507-387-1868. Thank you.
So Mankato went to that, this is actually their first year in this system. Number of schools in the Big Nine. Winona's been doing it for a number of years. Rochester is moving to it next year. Austin's looked at it. I don't know if they've made a decision on it yet. So we're doing it now, so I think now is the time to really start to have the communication with the wider community on, is this something we like, similar to what we're currently doing, or do we kind of want to go back to the old model? And as I stated, the research is pretty clear that the later the start, the better it is for our high school age students. So I'm going to throw 4 different options we're kind of looking at here out, and we can get some feedback now, and then I would propose we go to the community for some feedback. So option 1 is go back to how we used to do it. Okay, elementary would go from 8:20 to 2:50 with their first bell at 8:10. High school, or middle school, would go from 8:10 to 3:05, and then Albert Lea High School would go from 8 to 2:50. Another option for single tier would be that we stay with 1 tier of busing, so all the kids are on the bus, from younger kids to older kids, with a 25-minute later start time. The elementary would not start till first bell at 8:35, and then they'd go till 3:15. Southwest would go from 8:35 to 3:30. High school would go from 8:25 to 3:15. Those are some single-tier options. Next slide. 2-tier options. Okay, the first one is an early elementary start time, late high school start time. 7:45 to 2:15. First bell at 7:35. This is very similar to what Winona does. 9 o'clock to 3:40 would be Southwest Middle School. 9 o'clock to 3:30 would be the high school ALC. And then the 4th option, of course, that we have is the current model, which goes later into the afternoon for students and staff. Next slide. So what we propose to do is to survey our families, our high school students in particular, and staff to gain their thoughts on these 4 models. We'll ask about the models. We'll also ask about, concerns. Dennis, one of the things that we don't think we'll be able to do is if we do a early out model, probably won't have the daycare that we do now. So that would be something we would be very interested in talking with the Y about, as far as what daycare options we could run with at the Y for after school if we did one of these earlier start times. And then as far as the cost for transportation, the bus company has said it'll be cost neutral regardless of the option we pick for 21-22. So yes, the first year will be cost neutral till they can get a good feel for and we've talked to a number of schools who have gone to the 2-tier. Jennifer?
Yeah, so every district in the Big Nine has either gotten a bid for 2-tier or gone to 2-tier. It's either been cost neutral, or in the case of
I know we're working on the
So I guess looking for feedback from the board before we go forward here on looking at these options, and just hear your thoughts.
Let me get this clear. It would seem to me, thinking in very simplistic terms, that with a 2-tier system, we'd have half as many buses and half as many drivers.
Correct. I don't know about half, but we'd have less buses, less drivers, yes.
And I would think that in the long run, that would probably generate a savings in cost?
Yes,
Okay.
And as you survey, I'm sure the big thing is the extracurricular activities that so 3:30 would be as late for anyone to go to school, is that correct?
unless they chose the option that we're currently on.
Right, correct, yep.
If it's better for older students, why wouldn't we want to go to a two-tier system? I guess is my question.
Yeah, I can, speak for the athletic thing, because right now, most teams have morning practices as well as two practices a day. I know we did. And with the current system, that means they got up really early. And, if they persist in a two practice a day schedule, that would not require students getting up at such a beastly early hour in the morning to get to that morning practice.
Yes, I've had a couple parents wonder why not have the younger students go later because they have less things to do in the afternoon compared to the older ones. Is it strictly because science says older students need
Yeah,
sleep in?
that's kind of the rationale we're using for looking at it, is the older kids benefit from sleeping in later. There's a lot of research on that.
Can you talk a little bit about the survey and when that will go out and what will be on there?
I would say it should be out probably within the week, and go back to, and it will cover those 4 pieces. It will indicate that we will be providing some sort of daycare option for the early outs, or for the elementary, and then we'll have comments on there as far as what people would what their thoughts and concerns are.
I have a couple questions.
Yes, go ahead, Jill.
So if I'm hearing correctly, you're saying that a two-tier system would be more cost-effective generally than a one-tier?
We would have less buses, less drivers, but the buses will require more maintenance because you're driving them a lot more. You're driving them twice as much.
Okay, and then when daycare factors in, how does that affect the overall cost?
Well, again, we would be coordinating with external agencies to provide the daycare. We would not be doing that.
So unlike currently where we are filling that gap, then it would be for the families to provide, to pay that cost?
Potentially, yes.
Okay, and what would be some of the factors about whether they would or not? I don't understand the potentially part, I guess.
I think some families could qualify for free or no fee, depending upon their financial situation.
Oh, okay, thank you. And then regarding the survey, so I know that you said you'd survey families and then the older students. So would all families of all students be surveyed?
Yes.
Okay. And then I've gotten some comments from the past survey that they didn't have all of the details, such as the start times, and some of their answers may have been different. So now you're saying on this survey, all 4 options would be laid out specifically with all of the times?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
So some of the concerns that I had heard about the current schedule were, jobs and extracurricular activities, and I think that 3:30 option makes a lot of sense to me. And I guess I didn't think about the early morning practice too, and so I feel like there's lots of options. And the daycare was an option or a concern, but those kind of went away as we were in the model. Like I haven't heard those concerns, so I feel like people like this, and so I'm I'm excited to go out and ask people what they're thinking and promote the survey, because if they don't fill out the survey, we have to go with that people that do. So if they feel one way or the other, it's important for them to fill out that survey. But I like the later start. I'm in favor of that. There's definitely studies around brain development in adolescence, so I think it's a good idea.
Anything else? Okay. Thank you, Dr. Funk. Now we get the school board scholarship presentation. Dr. Funk?
So, a number of years ago, we started a school board scholarship that we asked board members to fund if they so desired. Where are we at on the funding for that? Okay, so have we not been funding it recently, or? Okay, so anyhow, we haven't, I guess, been funding it, so, which is news to me, but Ashley just told me about it the other day. So I'm wondering if the board would like to continue to contribute, what is it?
Whatever they would prefer to contribute.
What did they historically contribute?
It depended on the board member.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
Okay. So is that something, if you're interested in that, let Ashley know, and then can we work through like direct deposit to do it that way? Okay, so we could just do it out of the direct deposit piece.
What was the value of the scholarship that was given to the student?
We've done anywhere between 2 to 1 recipient, so $500.
1 or 2 recipients, 500.
500 for each one, or?
Mm-hmm. So if you are interested in doing that, then I would just ask you to coordinate with Ashley, and then she can work it through the deduction through payroll.
So do those recipients, does that just follow the high school general app, and then the people that select the scholarships at that committee?
There
they would
is
just go through
guidance that the board has provided to the counselors who oversee the program, and they select it based upon that guidance.
Perfect, thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else? Any other questions on that? Just let Ashley know.
So
Neil?
we'll be getting it, we will be getting information about this forthcoming. I mean, it's not something that I'm gonna have to inquire about. I'm
She'll send you
willing to
something.
Contribute.
Yep, she'll
Okay.
send you something.
Very good.
And we would need something soon because we are having those. Is that for the next year, or would that be for this year, the 21 scholarship?
I think we have money for 1 this year,
Okay.
and so then if, depending on, we could potentially have 2, or we would just move it forward, having 2 in a perpetuity.
Okay. Okay, well, if nothing else, just wanted to remind everybody, Monday, May 17th at 5 p.m., we'll have our business meeting for the school board right here. Thanks again for attending tonight, and have a good week.